G'day guys, how's it going? I'm Aaron Whitnall, this is ACWSport, and week 20 of the 2017-2018 Premier League season saw an English striker become Europe's top goalscorer and a world record smashed in the transfer market. And they are the two areas that I'm going to start, but particularly with Europe's new top goalscorer as we head to Wembley, a game that I was at on Boxing Day with my family, where Tottenham beat Southampton 5-2, and Harry Kane cemented himself in football history because he ended 2017 and the calendar year as Europe's top goalscorer with a whopping 55 goals in total, beating the likes of Luis Suarez, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Cavani, just a few names to think of there. But the other key elements that saw him make history were the fact that not only did he get 2 hat-tricks in 2 games, what a way to finish the year that is, but he broke Alan Shearer's record that has stood for the past 22 years for the most goals scored in the Premier League in a calendar year, scoring 40 in total. He also broke Shearer's record for the most hat-tricks in a calendar year. Shearer had 7, Kane has now scored 8. What a way to finish 2017, and overall, 56 goals in total. And he now finishes the year with a whopping 56 goals in 52 games for club and country. And you just wonder if this is the real starting point for Harry Kane, and if in a few years' time we could be comparing him as almost like the true English Messi or true English Ronaldo from a goal-scoring perspective. So, what a year it has been for Harry Kane. Tottenham were phenomenal. I say they were phenomenal. To be fair, Tottenham didn't really need to get out of third gear. Southampton were awful, but we'll get onto them in a minute. But yeah, this week was all about Harry Kane. Couldn't be happier for him because he's just someone that enjoys playing, and he is more than a striker as well. Some of the tackles he was putting in, the way he was tracking back, I think he did a goal line clearance at one point as well. The way he brings other players into the game, draws defenders away, sets up goals. There's so much to his game. He is almost like a modern Alan Shearer in that way, but he has got more goals, and you do have to wonder if he's going to break Shearer's all-time Premier League goal-scoring record. He certainly has time in his hands, so we're going to have to wait and see. But if I was a Spurs fan, you've just got to enjoy this moment because Kane is, without shadow of a doubt, the best out-and-out striker in the whole of Europe, and maybe even in the whole of world football right now. But it's not just Harry Kane to be excited about. Even though a lot of people, including myself, have criticised Dele Alli this season because he has been a bit up and down compared to last year. We do have to remember that he's still barely into his 20s. He's not even 22 yet. But when you see that he's now scored 54 goals before the age of 22, just to show you how big a stat that is more goals before the age of 22 than Icardi had scored, Suarez, Ibrahimovic, Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, and Aubameyang. So, considering that he's a midfielder and he's already scored more goals before the age of 22 than all of those strikers had, it's also a very exciting time to be a Spurs fan and enjoying Dele Alli as well. Do have to be a little bit careful about what happens in the years to come because you do wonder if these guys can continue to play this way and Spurs still don't win any trophies, silverware, or even one season don't qualify for the Champions League. Will Spurs be able to hold on to them? We'll have to wait and see. But for the time being, Spurs fans, how awesome is it to have these players in your team and to be watching Spurs play at the moment because they have been phenomenal players to watch. Albeit, obviously, Spurs fans would hope that their team would be a little bit closer to the top, but I think pretty much every other team in the top 6 apart from Man City would also think that, but City, as we know, have run away with it. But on to Southampton, because even though Spurs were pretty good, Kane and Ali phenomenal, Southampton were abysmal. I'm just kind of lost for words, really, because for me at the moment, I would say Southampton are going to go down based on the way they're playing because there was just not really any creativity there. I know they got on the score sheet a couple of times, although you could say it was from, poor goalkeeping and a little bit of poor defending from Spurs as opposed to Southampton really creating some amazing opportunities in terms of attack-wise. But just to give you an idea as to how they're struggling in front of goal, they've only won 1 game in their last 11. But also, since Shane Long last scored, Harry Kane has scored 50 times. So when it comes to the January transfer market, Southampton need to invest in a striker if they're going to have any hope of staying up. But they should have the money to do so because the other big story from this week is that Liverpool have broken the world transfer record for a defender, signing Virgil Van Dijk from Southampton, Liverpool's feeder club, because let's face it, they buy everyone from there, for a whopping £75 million. Is this a good buy? Look, in today's day and age, just forget the money, because the money is always going to be ridiculous. You can laugh as to how much they've spent on him when you look at Van Dijk's career. He's not really set the world alight. He did have a good season for Southampton. He was good in Celtic, but it's a Scottish league. But you do have to look at the fact that, aside from the one season, he's been a bit of a crybaby at Southampton. Hasn't played for them. There have clearly been issues because he wanted that move in the summer. I've got to question Southampton in terms of why they held out in the summer to sell him when you've just sold him now. Apparently for less money than what you would have got from him in the summer as well, which is a bit odd. But this is a good signing for Liverpool because he is a very good defender. And you do have to say, with Liverpool and the signings they're making, they are really going to challenge in a couple of years if they continue, or maybe even next season, if they continue to make the big signings. And they're able to hold on to the likes of Coutinho as well, because don't forget, we've got Keita joining in the summer as well. They've even bought good backup players as well. All right, people like Emre Can, who could potentially leave in the summer on a free transfer, they may need to sort out that contract situation because Chan's been very good for Liverpool. But this is still potentially a very exciting time for Liverpool in terms of how they're spending and how the club is being run at the moment. So, good all round. And yeah, like I said, even though Van Dijk has only had a couple of good seasons, we have seen he is a good defender. And it's just now whether a case or not he can jump back to that level playing for what is without a doubt the biggest club he's ever played for. No disrespect to Celtic. But exciting for Liverpool, exciting for Van Dijk, and let's see how good he can become for them. Could he be the answer to their defensive worries? Liverpool fans, comment below, let me know. In terms of their game, they beat Swansea 5-0 at Anfield. I predicted 4-0, but Liverpool, it was such an easy game. There's only one person to start with, that's Coutinho. He scored an unbelievable goal from outside the box, and he's just loving life as Liverpool's captain when he's given the armband. In his last 7 games, he's got 5 goals and 5 assists. This was his 200th Premier League appearance and his 19th goal from outside the box. Just to put that into perspective, that's more goals from outside the box in the time that Coutinho's been in the Premier League scored by him than any other Premier League player. So he's, without a doubt, the best midfielder at scoring goals from outside the box. But yeah, it was just easy for Liverpool. Wonderful goal from Alexander-Arnold. His first goal for Liverpool at Anfield. First Premier League goal as well. What one to remember. In front of the Kop. Wonderful volley. And yeah, just a cracking one. Always looks better when he goes off the crossbar. But yeah, it keeps Liverpool's momentum at home going. As for Swansea, again, you have to worry for them. I just don't see how there's any way they're going to get out of trouble. It's the 3rd year in a row they've been in the drop zone at Christmas, and you just have to wonder if third time's the charm in terms of them going down. So not a result they would have wanted, but big win for Liverpool, keeps their momentum going and very much keeps them around the top 4 and also keeps them close to the 2nd spot, because Man United have had an awful week. Now they've drawn at home to Burnley, who, don't get me wrong, have been phenomenal this season, but you would have expected United to have won this game. Or should you have? Because when you look back throughout history, before this weekend, Burnley had faced United only 3 times in history on Boxing Day and had won all of those fixtures. The last one coming in the 60s, I'll mind you. But still, good record to have against Man United. Anyway, they took a 2-0 lead at Old Trafford, stunning Old Trafford into silence. First of all, poor defending from United that allowed Barnes to score. But in the midway through the first half, the free kick from Defoe was absolutely spectacular. No goalkeeper in the world would have had a chance with that shot. It was just perfect free kick. Burnley were in dreamland. They only had 2 shots at goal, and in the whole game they only had 3 shots. So it just shows you how how good they were doing in terms of when they did get a chance, how well they were taking them. Although you've got to say, when you look at the whole stats, they were a little bit lucky to get the win in the end, because United did have over 20 shots. Burnley did well at defending, but on another day, United could have had a lot more goals. Jose changed it up at half-time. He needed to. He brought on Jesse Lingard, who's having a phenomenal season. And at the moment, you have to say, Lingard deserves to go to the World Cup if he keeps playing the way he's going. I mean, with those 2 goals against Burnley, especially the flick, it was wonderful. He now has more goals and assists this season than Alexis Sanchez and Eden Hazard in the Premier League. That's how impressive he's playing. So is he underrated? That's the big thing that we need to kind of start asking ourselves, because he's starting for Jose. I know he didn't start the weekend, but Jose saw this as a game that he thought his side were going to win without Lingard in it. But he's playing Lingard in all of the big games. You wonder if Lingard's almost doing a bit of a Park Ji-sung role for Jose, because when Fergie had the big games, Park is the player he would always play. Jose now seems to be turning to Lingard, and you're wondering if that's the role Lingard will be playing for Man United, which is a good role to have because Park is a Man United legend and always came to the forefront in those big games for Fergie. So maybe Lingard's doing the same for Jose, and that could be something for Gareth Southgate to consider come the World Cup. But as for Burnley, you know, they're now unbeaten away from home against Chelsea, Spurs, United and Liverpool this season. When you consider last year, they struggled so much away from home. Sean Dyche has done an amazing job, kind of running out of praises for him. But what a result for them. And yeah, what a week for Burnley to enjoy, having obviously drawn at Old Trafford. But not been a good week for Man United, and they're going to want to turn that around quickly. Thankfully, their next game is against Southampton, and I do think United will get back on track in that one at least. Now on to the runaway leaders, Manchester City. They won again, this time at Newcastle. Their run continues. Fairly comfortable win. One or two hair-raising moments for them, but they dealt with it overall. I think the biggest moment was when Aguero cleared the ball off of the line from a Newcastle attack. Rolando Aaron's chipping it over Ederson. That was the closest Newcastle came. Aside from that, City were dominant, had 80% of the ball possession. Sterling scored again, his 13th Premier League goal of the season. A real funny goal as well. He almost kind of stood on the ball whilst falling over, and it went in at the near post, and you had to question whether or not the keeper was at fault for letting it in or whether or not it was just a good finish. But hey, at the end of the day, City won again. They're 15 points clear now at the top of the Premier League, which means they could lose every single game until February and still be top. That is how far they are ahead of everyone else this season. Absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, for the rest, it's just a case of who's going to finish behind them, really. Chelsea, they carried on their business and closed the gap on Man United. They won 2-0 at home to Brighton. Morata back amongst the goals, scoring yet another header. Chelsea have scored more headed goals than any other Premier League side this season, scoring 12. And Azpilicueta and Morata have got some partnership between them, which is a bit odd to say when you consider Azpilicueta as a fullback. But he's assisted 6 of Morata's 12 goals this season. They seem to have a real good understanding between them, and it seems to be all good for Chelsea, but very comfortable win for them. There was also a kind of comfortable win for Arsenal at Crystal Palace. They won 3-1 like I predicted they would. Palace gave it a good go, but in the end Arsenal just had too much quality for them. Arsenal took the lead for a bit of a sloppy goal really to give away, but Mustafi gave them the lead. Palace then got level thanks to a good goal from Townsend, finished wonderfully after Zaha's pullback, but it was then 2 quick-fire goals in the space of 4 minutes from Alexis Sanchez that took the game away from Palace. And again, it was just another good performance from Wilshere, which is a plus for Arsenal. Sanchez on the score sheet, which is a plus for Arsenal. Scary that he's probably going to Man City. I don't want to think about that, especially with the January transfer market just opening, because it just makes you wonder if City will actually be stopped by anyone ever again if Sanchez goes there as well. But no, comfortable win for Arsenal, keeps them in the race for the top 4 as well. Now down towards the bottom of the Premier League, because there were some thrilling matches down there, particularly at the Vitality Stadium, where Bournemouth and West Ham played out a 3-3 draw. Now, West Ham took the lead through James Collins, fantastic free kick, swung in, Collins met it with his head, wonderful goal to give West Ham the lead, thanks to the Ginger Pele, Collins himself. But at Bournemouth, they got themselves back in the game, but you do have to wonder, before they scored, in which their first goal was actually their first goal in 344 minutes, which is quite a shock when you're considering the strike force Bournemouth have, and for Premier League standards, it looks pretty good. Whether or not Bournemouth should have been down to 10 men because of Francis's high foot on Kouate. Now, for me, looking at it, when you look at the rules and regulations of today's game, it's a straight red. But the ref only gave him a yellow, so I'll be interested to know. Please comment below, let me know. Did you think that that was a red card or a yellow? Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, so let me know. But, you know, Bournemouth, they got themselves back in the game. Then they took the lead through Ake, his first goal since leaving Chelsea and joining Bournemouth on a permanent contract. And then at 2-1, Adrian saved West Ham, producing a wonderful double save to keep them in the game. Because I think if Bournemouth had gone 3-1 up, that would have been it. Game over. And he really proved why he's keeping Joe Hart out of the West Ham starting lineup with those saves. But then West Ham got a bit of luck. Uncharacteristically, Begovic produced 2 absolute blunders to give Arnautovic a perfect chance to get West Ham back into the game. Sadly, it cost Bournemouth big time because West Ham found themselves 3-2 up going into stoppage time. Then Wilson equalised in the luckiest of fashion because he was offside, and he also used his arm to touch the ball into the goal as well. I think it would have gone in naturally from Ake anyway, but Wilson put his arm out, the ball went in the back of the net. And yeah, it ended as a 3-3 draw. And even though there were complaints from West Ham about how the goal was kind of conceded and the fact the refs allowed it to happen, which you can understand, at the same time, West Ham will also feel very lucky that they actually came away from this game with a point, Because for me, Bournemouth were the better side. And until Begovic's blunders, West Ham weren't really in the game because Bournemouth had completely turned it around, had the momentum, and for me, were playing better. So, yeah, I think both teams will feel both unlucky, but also very lucky at the same time that they came away from this game with a point each. Elsewhere, more up towards the mid-table now, Watford picked up their first win in a few games now by beating Leicester, surprisingly. Now, Riyad Mahrez loves a trip to Watford. He scores every single time he plays there, scored again this time. But no, Watford got themselves back into the game. Doucouré and Vaga on the score sheet for them. Vaga actually scored his first goal on his first Premier League start, but also became Watford's 13th different goal scorer of the season in doing so. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. If I'm not, I apologise. But, you know, it's great to have so many different scorers amongst the team, but I think Watford are still missing that man to score multiple goals this season, which is kind of why they've been struggling through this middle period. However, you do have to say, again, uncharacteristically for a goalkeeper of such quality, Kasper Schmeichel made a bit of a blunder that gave Watford the winning goal. And then laid on, Gomez actually saved Watford thanks to, again, another wonderful double save laid on to deny Leicester. But Leicester have now conceded more headed goals than any other Premier League side this season, 13. And that's something Claude Puel will want to address moving forward and into the new year. But yeah, big win there for Watford, but disappointment for Leicester because that win could have really pushed them further up the table, right on the likes of Burnley's backs, especially because Burnley drew. But yeah, there was also an intriguing game played out towards the kind of middle bottom of the Premier League table between Huddersfield and Stoke. As we know, Stoke have been struggling in recent weeks, but Huddersfield are fantastic at home. I thought Huddersfield were going to win this game. It ended up being a 1-1 draw. And I think the biggest story to take away from this is that Tom Ince finally scored a Premier League goal. And I say finally because he's actually had more shots at goal than any other Huddersfield player this season. An astonishing 45 shots at goal without scoring. So it was great to see him on the score sheet. And I think a point that in the end both teams will settle for, especially from a Stoke perspective. Huddersfield, even though any point is a bonus when you get promoted in your first season, they might feel at least a little bit aggrieved that because it was a home game, they've been so good at home, they couldn't find the winner. And then the final game this weekend saw West Brom and Everton play out a 0-0 draw, which is a result that neither team wanted. Didn't really spark too much creativity. Wasn't exactly the most thrilling game this weekend, hence the 0-0 draw. But you know, at least it wasn't a defeat for West Brom, but they still need to find a goal under Alan Pardew. And for Everton, it's another game unbeaten under Sam Allardyce. And again, something to continue to build on going into the new year. And that is pretty much everything that happened in week 20 of the Premier League season. So please comment below, let me know, do you agree with the points that I've made, some of the stats that I've put out there? You know, how many more, or how much better can Harry Kane get in 2018 and Dele Alli? What do you make of Liverpool's signings? When will Manchester City be beaten? And are United going through a slump? Is Jose the right man for United? Please let me know the answer to all of these questions in your comments below. As always, I'm Aaron Whitnall, and I will see you again shortly with my Premier League Week 21 and Week 22 predictions. I'm doing them together because all of the fixtures are so close together, and I just wouldn't have time in between to do reviews before getting the next predictions out. So I'll be back with all my predictions for those 2 weeks in the same video. And as of January, I'll also be starting my FA Cup videos as well. So don't forget to subscribe to ACWSport for more football videos, predictions, reviews, so on and so forth. And I will see you guys again soon.